Welcome to 5 Minutes of Focus. In this episode, we address an issue that many leaders inadvertently create with unfortunate consequences: drama. So, remove all distractions and just push play. Let's set the stage with a leadership story. This story is true, but the names have been changed to protect the innocent. George is a great leader. He has many highly desirable leadership traits. Like many entrepreneurs, George is a visionary, driven leader who likes to be in control. He creates followership, but not necessarily loyalty. Why, you ask? Because George overplays many of his strengths that have gotten him to the top of this mountain. George created and developed a successful private investment business. Many on his leadership team joined him early in the adventure. But as George's business matured, he realized that some of his followers were no longer enamored with his quick decision-making, control orientation, and confidence that a deal could always get done. About 5 years in, confidence in George's leadership began to turn. Several members of the team left, and those that remained began simply to mail it in. George was confused, unhappy, and the harder he tried, the worse it got. He began to question his own ability and started to wonder if he could make this work for the long run. What George failed to realize is that the strengths that made him successful to this point had become weaknesses. Drama ensued, and his business began to fail. It was at that point George went on a quest to search for the answers that would help him revitalize his business. He failed to see that the drama he created by overplaying his strengths is what got him in trouble. We spent time with George helping him sort out the most important thing he could do as a leader. As you will learn, George did not have to reinvent himself. He simply needed to apply one more critical skill. In our story, George possessed the typical leadership traits you would expect as illustrated here: passion, energy, visionary thinking, enthusiasm, a fast pace, and the list goes on and on. After all, this is what we expect from someone in a leadership role. And when these traits and skills are missing, they often don't stay in a role very long. However, what George failed to realize is that any strength overused becomes a liability and can create unexpected consequences among followers. For example, in our story, George's ability to exude confidence and be decisive worked as the business began to grow. However, those that he put into leadership positions became frustrated. They were not able to apply their own set of skills as leaders in the organization. Decisions remain with one individual, George. And highly talented leaders decided to take their skills elsewhere. As mentioned before, those that remained became unengaged and their dedication waned. As George's panic set in, he became increasingly frustrated, creating more and more drama. One of George's other traits was generosity. And so George threw equity and titles at the leaders around him, failing to realize that motivation comes from within rather than from without. The stronger George's grip became, the more loyalty slipped through his fingers. It would take George some time to really look inside as to how to fix the problem. The harder George grasped for the solutions, the more drama ensued. We helped George understand that he was only truly using one of his 3 centers of intelligence. And to solve this, he would need to balance all 3. George is a powerful personality who leads by instinct. His superpower was his gut, followed by his ability to support his thesis. Not bad, right? Well, intuitive confidence overplayed and unchecked creates fear and frustration, especially when the leader is so confident they're right, they tend to miss traps and hazards. Successful leaders recognize that there are 3 centers of intelligence: the emotional center of intelligence, the thinking center of intelligence, and the intuitive center of intelligence. People tend to gravitate toward one center of intelligence while neglecting the other two, and this is a trap. Self-aware leaders recognize that to create followership, you must leverage all three centers of intelligence, even though you may have one that is dominant. Failure to do this creates unintended drama and can result in less than perfect results. What was true for George is true for all of us. This applies to leaders and followers. We all need to understand our own drama manufacturing plant. Each of us was created with a survival instinct, a motivation driven by a very primitive state of mind called the ego. This is our drama manufacturing plant. To help us understand and overcome the ego, we use a tool called the Enneagram. Differentiated from other psychological tools, the Enneagram focuses on our core motivations. Typically, when we're young, we use these motivations to create safety. This reflects our ego. Our ego strategies were useful when we had no power. However, when we became adults, we needed to realize that we need more than one strategy to be successful. The Enneagram illustrates 9 typical ego strategies and core motivations. What George failed to realize was he was over-reliant on his single strategy, his Type 8. While it created early success, failure to adapt affected his business success and created more drama. Understanding the Enneagram and similar tools are very useful because they help us understand ourselves. There is one tool, however, that allows us to go much deeper to avoid drama and not only understand ourselves, but understand the impact that we can have on those around us. There are very few things in life that we would consider a magic bullet. However, learning the skill of curiosity is one of those magic bullets. We've published countless materials on the skill of curiosity and would encourage you to study them and understand them. For George, learning how to be curious rather than defensive was something that he added to his leadership skill set to reduce fear in his organization, and this increased dialogue and creativity. Drama was reduced, and creativity and safety were increased. This enabled George's firm and his other leaders to play at the top of their game. A curious and open mind, which allows for performance in a drama-free environment, requires leaders to understand their reactions, how they create fear, and how adjusting their approach by using the other 2 aspects of intelligence creates safety. Having too much command and control and fear-based management will drive talent either out of the organization or people will simply quit and stay. This higher level of drama erodes organizational success, and what materializes are villains, victims, and heroes. What George learned was that what got him here would not get him there. A clear understanding of who he was, how he manufactured both success and failure, was key to positive change. He further learned better strategies to empower his leadership team and their abilities. The story is incomplete, but the drama in the organization has been significantly reduced, and they are clearly on a path to recovery. If you'd like to learn more about curiosity, the Enneagram, and the 3 centers of intelligence, or George's journey, please reach out to us. You can visit us at our website, watch more material on our YouTube channel, or connect with us on LinkedIn. It's our desire that every leader has the self-knowledge to create their own wisdom and success for all of those that they lead.